Every single person who walks into this room says the exact same thing. And honestly, I get it. I really do. But today, we are blowing that assumption wide open. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are doing something I have never done before. I am pulling back the curtain on an entire year of buying food in bulk. Every purchase, every total, every question you have been flooding my comments with for months. We are covering all of it. So grab something to drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Before anything else, I want to address the elephant in the room. When most people first see a room full of shelving stacked with canned goods, pasta, and pantry staples, their brain jumps to one word: hoarding. And I want to be really clear. I understand why. Visually, it can look overwhelming. But here is the thing. When I walk into that room, I am not seeing inventory. I am not seeing cans on a shelf. I am seeing Tuesday night's dinner already handled. I am seeing a pot of soup that is going to save me when someone comes down sick on a random Wednesday. I am seeing a casserole that I can throw together on a night when everything has gone sideways and I have zero energy left. That is the real story behind what is on those shelves. And once you understand that, everything changes. So let's start from the very beginning of the year and walk through exactly what I bought, when I bought it, and what I paid. No fluff, just the real numbers. We are starting in March of last year. The first big shopping event of the year was a case lot style sale at a major grocery chain. Now, later in this video, and I really want you to stay for this part, I am going to break down what a case lot sale actually is, why where you live does not matter, and how you can create your own version of one no matter what stores are near you. But first, the haul. I picked up one case of 12 light red kidney beans and one case of 12 Great Northern beans. Black beans were running low, so I grabbed a 24 count, and I also grabbed a 24 count of refried beans. For tomato products, I snagged a 24 count of petite diced tomatoes, a 24 count of tomato paste, and a 24 count of regular diced tomatoes. Then I grabbed a 24 count of French-style green beans and a 12 count of diced green chilies. I picked up a case of 8 large cans of a pantry staple we use constantly. For pasta sauce, I had to buy a 12 count to unlock the sale price. Since it was mix and match, I went with 4 jars of Parmesan and Romano, 4 flavored with wheat, and 4 traditional. Smart way to add variety without overcommitting to one flavor. For protein, I grabbed Chunk Light tuna and water, 48 5-ounce cans in one box. I also picked up frozen chicken because there was a deal I could not walk away from. A 20-pound box was $35, which works out to $1.75 per pound. I got 2 boxes of chicken breasts and 1 box of tenders. If you want to see how I broke all of that down for the freezer and turned some of it into freezer meals, I made a full video on that and you can find it on my channel. Before wrapping up that first stop, I also swung through another grocery store to compare pricing, which is something I always recommend doing. I picked up 24 cans of condensed tomato soup. Then I grabbed 12 seasoning packets, 6 au jus gravy mix, and 6 fajita seasoning. I grabbed 2 25-pound bags of granulated sugar. I needed a couple bags of powdered sugar and accidentally grabbed confectioner's sugar, which has cornstarch in it. Total mistake. I have never touched it. I actually gave it away. Drop it in the comments. What do you actually use confectioner's sugar for? I genuinely have no idea and I'm curious. Then I rounded out that first haul with a box of light brown sugar, 12 bags in the box, and 2 bags of unbleached all-purpose flour. The grand total for that first haul of the year, $396.31. Now, before you close the tab, stay with me, because when we get to the end and I show you what that averages out to per month, your whole perspective on this is going to shift. All right, let's fast forward to the second major haul of the year. This one happened in September, back to the same store for another case lot style event. And here is where things get interesting because the prices this time were even better on certain items. I grabbed a gallon of canola oil and a 42-ounce container of quick oats. For soups, I picked up a 24 count of chicken noodle soup. And again, you had to buy the full case to get that price. Same rule applied to the canned vegetables. I got a 24 count of French green beans, a 24 count of cut green beans, and a 24 count of...
For tomatoes, tomatoes, I grabbed a 12 count of stewed tomatoes and a 12 count of petite diced. For chicken broth, I bought 2 separate 24 packs to get the case price. And for beans, the deal required buying in groups of 12, so I picked up black beans, pinto beans, Great Northern beans, and kidney beans, all in 12 count cases. I also grabbed one 25-pound bag of granulated sugar and 2 bags of bread flour. The total for that September haul at this store came to $178.19. Then in November, I made a targeted trip to a different store specifically because I knew they had something I needed on sale: clams. Now, if you've ever made a really good clam chowder, you know that it is one of those recipes where the quality of your canned clams makes a noticeable difference. It takes 4 cans to make 1 full pot of my clam chowder. At the time, I had 3 cans sitting on my shelf, which was driving me a little crazy, so I grabbed 25 cans of minced clams and 24 cans of chopped clams. That gives me enough for 13 full batches of clam chowder, and now the 3 I already had rounds out one of those batches perfectly. While I was there, I also grabbed 12 cans of cut green beans and 12 cans of golden sweet corn at 50 cents per can. For reference, the big box store nearby had them at 76 cents each, so that was a clear win. I picked up 6 cans of pineapple tidbits from a name brand because they had the variety I needed, and 6 cans of pineapple chunks from the store brand since that price was better. I grabbed a 42-ounce container of quick-cooking oats because I had just used up my last batch. I picked up 2 15-ounce containers of plain breadcrumbs and 4 16-ounce boxes of cornstarch. Total for that November haul, $98.44. So here is the number that I want you to really sit with for a second. My grand total for an entire year of bulk shopping came to $672.94. Now divide that across 12 months. That is $56.07 per month. Think about that. Less than $60 a month to keep a fully stocked pantry that feeds my family through hundreds of meals. That is what bulk buying actually costs when you do it with a plan. And this is why I build it into our monthly budget as its own category. There's a line item for bulk shopping, just like there's a line item for regular groceries or utilities. When the sales hit, the money is already set aside and ready to go. That is the structure that makes this sustainable long term. Now let's talk about the thing that completely changed how I think about all of this, and this might be the most valuable shift in mindset I can give you today. Stop counting cans. Start counting meals. Here's what I mean. One of our family's go-to dinners is a shepherd's pie. The shelf-stable ingredients for that recipe are 1 can of corn, 1 can of green beans, and 1 can of tomato soup. Right now, on my shelves, I have 60 cans of corn, 67 cans of cut green beans, and 25 cans of tomato soup. The limiting factor is the tomato soup at 25 cans, so I can make our shepherd's pie 25 times before I need to restock anything. That is 25 meals already planned and already paid for. If we eat that dish once a month, I have more than 2 years of that meal covered. If we have it twice a month, I have a full year. Do you see why this is so powerful? Once you think in meals instead of inventory, everything becomes more intentional. You stop overbuying things you do not actually use, you stop underbuying the things your family eats constantly, and you stop feeling overwhelmed by the shelves because now every can has a job. This approach also helps you shop your shelves before you ever set foot in a store. When I want to figure out what we are eating this week, I come downstairs first. I see what is already there. I build meals around what I have, and then I only buy what is genuinely missing. That is how this whole system reduces your overall grocery spending over time, not just the bulk buying portion. Now, here is something that is going to save a lot of people a lot of frustration. I want to address the case lot sale question once and for all, because it is the comment I see most often when I share my shopping hauls. People say things like, my state does not have case lot sales. My town does not do those. That is only a thing where you live. And I hear you, I really do. But here's the truth. The phrase case lot sale is just regional terminology. It is what we call it in my area. It's not a special, exclusive shopping event that only happens in certain states. A case lot sale simply means you're buying a full case of something, usually 12 or 24 units, to access a
That structure exists everywhere. It is the same principle behind a pallet of goods at a warehouse store. It is the same principle behind buying a dozen of something when the single unit price is much higher. So here is how you create your own case lot moment anywhere you live. You compare prices. You track the lowest price you have seen for a specific item across all the stores in your area. And when something drops to that lowest point, that is your signal. That is your moment to buy a case worth, whether the store calls it a case lot sale or not. The label does not matter, the price does. And the best time of year to do this? Around major holidays, especially Thanksgiving. Stores aggressively discount pantry staples during that window. If the sale price beats the lowest regular price you have tracked, you stock up, period. That is it. You are making your own version of the sale regardless of what your local store calls it. No more using geography as a reason not to build a pantry. You can absolutely do this wherever you are. Now, I do want to talk about something important that comes with case lot buying, and honestly with any kind of bulk shopping. And that is the danger of buying what looks like a great deal when it actually is not. A few years back, I walked into a case lot event and everything looked incredible. Giant displays, big sale signs, prices that seemed amazing. And then I did something I always do. I pulled out my phone and checked the regular price at a couple of other stores nearby. Some of those sale prices, they were still higher than the everyday price somewhere else. Not by a huge margin, but enough to matter when you're buying 24 units of something. So do not let the excitement of a sale event override your price tracking habits. Always know your numbers, know what you have paid before, know what other stores charge for the same item. When the sale price genuinely beats everything else you have seen, that is a real deal. When it does not, you have the option to wait or shop elsewhere. You are always in control of that decision. I also want to be honest about something that has evolved in our household over the last couple of years that I think a lot of people can relate to. Our family size has changed. We went from 4 kids at home to 2, and yes, that has affected what and how much I buy in bulk. Some things have stayed exactly the same. Core pantry staples, the ingredients that go into our most used recipes, those I still buy in the same quantities because we go through them at roughly the same rate. Chicken has stayed consistent, but other things have shifted. Condiments, for example. I have pulled back on how much barbecue sauce, salad dressing, and marinade I stock up on. Not completely, but noticeably. Cereal has slowed down a little too, though honestly we use it more as a snack than a breakfast food, so I still grab a good deal when I see one. Fruit has been interesting. I used to buy canned peaches and canned pears regularly. Now I really only stock up on peaches. And canned applesauce has largely moved into a baking ingredient category rather than something we just grab off the shelf to eat. Meat in the freezer has been the biggest surprise. We have genuinely slowed down on beef consumption. There is a lot sitting in there right now. Chicken has stayed the same pace. So as your household changes, your bulk buying naturally needs to adjust too. This is not a rigid system, it's a flexible one that responds to your actual life. Now let's talk about what I know is going to come up in the comments no matter what. It always does. The hoarding question. I get it. I genuinely do. When you look at a room full of shelves packed with food, your brain reaches for the closest reference point it has. And for a lot of people, that reference point is something they have seen on a television program about extreme collecting behaviors. But what you are looking at is not that. The difference is simple but important. Hoarding collects and forgets. Preparedness plans and rotates. Every single item on those shelves has a place. Every item has a recipe. Every item gets used, restocked, and used again. The cans are organized by category. Older stock lives at the front. Newer stock goes behind or above. First in, first out. That is not chaos, that is a system. And on the topic of dates, because I get this question constantly, those numbers printed on the top or bottom of your cans are best buy dates. They are not expiration dates. They are not safety deadlines. They are the manufacturer's estimate of when the product is at its absolute peak quality. The can does not become dangerous the day after that date. I actually talked about this publicly in an interview on a national television program. The food safety expert they brought in to examine my pantry agreed. The conclusion was straightforward. A properly stored can, kept in a cool and dry location and free from damage, can remain safe and perfectly edible well past the printed date. They opened a can of peaches that was years past its best buy date. It looked fine, it smelled fine, and it tasted completely normal. So when I pull a can off the shelf to use it, I do the same thing I would do with anything from my refrigerator. I look at it, I smell it, I use common sense. If something ever seemed off, I would not use it. But in all the years I have been doing this, that has almost never happened with properly stored canned goods.
The rotation process is simple. I come downstairs, grab what I need from the front of the shelf, and push everything else forward. That is it. The system does not have to be complicated to work. I also get asked pretty often how I know when it is time to replace something. Like, do I just wait until I happen to see it on sale again? Not exactly. Because I shop from these shelves regularly, I have a pretty clear picture of what we are going through and at what pace. I also pay attention to sale cycles. Different categories of items tend to go on sale at predictable times of year. Baking staples tend to drop before the holiday season. Soups and broths often see good deals in early fall. Canned vegetables have their own rhythm too. So I keep a running note on my phone of things I want to watch for, and when the timing and the price line up, I restock. That is the whole system. Now I want to talk about mistakes, because if you are just starting out with this approach, there are a few traps that are easy to fall into, and I want to save you from all of them. The first mistake is buying food and then forgetting about it. Just because you have a shelf full of cans does not mean you are prepared. If you are not rotating through it, not cooking from it, not integrating it into your actual meal planning, then it is just stuff taking up space. The whole point is that you use this food. It replaces your regular grocery trips, not adds another layer on top of them. The second mistake is buying huge quantities of food your family has never tried. This is especially common when someone gets excited about a big sale or starts couponing. If you have never made a recipe with a particular item, do not buy 24 cans of it. Buy one or two, try it, make sure your family actually eats it, and then stock up. Otherwise, you're going to have a shelf full of things that never get touched and eventually get thrown away. That is not saving money, that is wasting it in a different way. The third mistake is buying something just because it's a great deal, even when it does not fit your family's actual eating habits. The deal is only as good as your likelihood of using the item. I have made this mistake before. Everyone has. The goal is to get better at recognizing when a sale genuinely serves your household versus when it just looks exciting in the moment. And the fourth mistake, this one is subtle but it matters, is not having a budget category for bulk buying. If you are treating it as an impulse spend every time you see a sale, you're going to either overspend or feel guilty about the purchase even when it is a smart one. Give it its own line in your budget. Even $50 or $60 a month set aside specifically for this purpose changes everything. Because when the sale hits, you are ready. You are not scrambling or second guessing. You just go. Here's the thing that surprised me most when I looked back at this entire year of buying. It was not the volume of food. It was not even the low monthly average, though that is remarkable on its own. What surprised me was realizing how completely my relationship with this room has changed over time. I used to walk in here and see cans. Now I walk in here and I feel calm. I feel ready. I feel like no matter what the week throws at us, a busy schedule, an unexpected expense that wipes out the grocery budget, someone getting sick, dinner is handled. Peace of mind is on those shelves right alongside the green beans and the chicken broth. That is a feeling that is very hard to put a dollar amount on, but the math says it costs about $56 a month, and I think that's a pretty reasonable price for that kind of security. Now I want to take a second to answer a question that I see a lot from people who are just getting started. They want to know how to begin when the budget is tight and they feel like they are already stretched thin. And here's what I tell them every time. You do not need to build this room in a month. You build it one haul at a time, one sale at a time. Even if your first case lot purchase is 12 cans of beans that you got for 50 cents each instead of 80 cents, that's a win. That's money staying in your pocket. That's one more batch of a meal you love already in. Start with your go-to recipes. Figure out what your family eats most consistently, the meals that show up on your dinner table week after week. Make a list of the shelf-stable ingredients those recipes require. Those are the items you are watching for deals on. Those are the items you start stockpiling first. Everything else can come later. Because here is the other beautiful thing about building your pantry around real meals your family loves. You are never buying food you have to force yourself to use. You are always buying food you are going to buy anyway. You are just buying it smarter, at a lower price, in a quantity that means you are set for weeks or months instead of just this week. I also want to mention something that I think gets overlooked when people talk about bulk buying and pantry building. The mental load reduction is real. When I am planning meals for the week, I am not standing in a grocery store trying to remember if we have tomato paste or if we are out of chicken broth. I come downstairs, I look, I know exactly what we have. I build the week's meals around what is already there. The grocery store trip becomes smaller, faster, and more focused because most of what I need is already home. That is a form of efficiency that saves not just money, but time and energy. And if you are someone who finds meal planning stressful or who often ends up doing that exhausted end-of-day grocery run because nothing is at home for dinner, this system is built specifically for people like you. Let me give you one more real-world example of what I mean by versatility. A little while back, I found a recipe online, one of those Mexican-inspired casseroles that looked absolutely incredible and made me want to make it immediately. I looked through the ingredient list. The only two things I did not have on my shelves were a jar of queso and some fresh cilantro. Everything else, the beans, the tomatoes, the corn, the seasoning, the chicken, was already there. I made one quick trip to grab 2 items. That was it. That is what a stocked pantry actually looks like in real life, not a museum of cans you never open, a working kitchen that is always 1 or 2 ingredients away from whatever you want to make. And this is something I want to say clearly because I think it gets lost sometimes in conversations about food storage. The goal is not to build a bunker. The goal is to build a smarter, more efficient, more affordable version of the kitchen you already have. You are not preparing for the apocalypse. You are preparing for a busy Tuesday, for the week when the budget is already shot, for the month when something unexpected happens and you need every dollar to stretch as far as it possibly can. That is real preparedness. That is the practical version of this that works for actual families with actual lives and actual budgets. One thing I love doing and want to encourage you to do too, especially when you are just getting started, is to not think of this pantry as separate from your regular cooking. It is not a backup system you only touch in an emergency. It is your primary resource. Come here first when you are planning dinner. Shop these shelves before you write a grocery list. Use what is here, replenish what runs low, and let the grocery store fill in the gaps in the fresh items. When you make that mental shift, the whole thing starts to feel effortless, and eventually it just becomes how you cook. All right, I want to give a quick shout out here. If this kind of content connects with you, if you find yourself nodding along and thinking this is something you want to implement, make sure you hit that like button right now on this video. It genuinely helps more people find my channel and discover this approach to feeding their families smarter. Every like tells the algorithm that this is content worth sharing, and I want this to reach people who need it. So if you got something out of today, tap that like for me. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with the question I think every person who builds a pantry like this eventually asks themselves, and the answer might surprise you. The question is it worth it? And the answer depends entirely on how you define worth. If worth means building a room full of cans you never touch just to say you have them, then no, that is not worth it. But if worth means knowing that your family is going to eat well this week, regardless of what happens, regardless of whether the paycheck is short or the car needed repair, or you had a brutal week and there is no energy left for a grocery run, then yes, absolutely, completely 100% worth it. The numbers back it up.